Hela landowners discuss ways to end violence and threats. Deputy Prime Minister says Australia-PNG ties strong. And PNG Kumuls take on the Fiji Bati tomorrow.
This is National EMTV News with Meriba Tulo.
A very good evening. It is Friday and this is the news. Thank you so much for joining us. Landowners representing the 12 LLGs in Hela are discussing ways to address recent vandalism and gun violence activities in Hela. Yesterday, they met with their 3 MPs in Port Moresby and listed ways forward in minimizing threats to close the PNG LNG site in the province.
The gathering of close to 400 Hela leaders came hours after wellheads in Ngore in the Taripori electorate were vandalized yesterday because of outstanding payment claims by landowners. The meeting raised concerns on the gun violence and tribal fights people in Hela continue to face since it broke away from Southern Highlands in 2012.
Leaders lo yumi tokos plesi bagara yumi need lo harem lo people all Hela mas tok plenty hub only fight now money die yumi stalo mostly yumi sambla lo yumi playing part two lo disla all issue lo place before lo me go inside lo disla Hela kimbo association aste me pla approach him yupla lo yupla can straighten disla meeting lo me pla because province you mix master na this la big blood demand na how lo you can stop person people na province.
Access to high-powered firearms, compensation payments from the PNG LNG gas project, an increase in law and order issues were some of the concerns raised. Part of the reason the Hela leaders met yesterday was because they wanted to distance Hela from the recent riot in Mendi.
And now people on the ground, there's unrest and burning down of camps and all those things are not related to that same issue in Mendi, in Southern Highlands. That is totally different. So there is no link, there is no connection between Hela and the Southern Highlands as far as all these problems are concerned.
They say the Mendi riot has crippled Hela because much of the government services reach Hela province through Southern Highlands, and the indefinite closure of the Mendi airport and withdrawing of medical offices from Mendi General Hospital will also affect those in Hela.
That's in state assets. Public servant, I'm hard, go back, work, lottery. All kita stop lo must be because all fly la balus. Prime Minister Mazhar Misawe.
After listening to their concerns, Korobalei Kopiago MP Petrus Thomas and Taripori MP James Marope addressed the leaders.
All heavy come up lo bless time you brook him. Time you brook him over the heavy na. You start a single him out. You brook him over the heavy na. You meet the gosem. Lord of tribal fight them this la. Agora maybe am this la island see okay one baby you must start broken na by me clear law I'll address him.
Because of time factor, another meeting is scheduled for this Saturday. Thekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
Hela Provincial Police Commander Martin Lakari said the Angore Wellhead A campsite was rampaged and machinery set alight yesterday. He said police and PNG Defence Force personnel are negotiating with landowners to calm the situation. However, there are 2 factions, one destroying the campsite while the other faction trying to stop their counterparts from destroying property. PPC Lakari said operations from Angore Wellhead A and Wellhead B are still continuing. PPC Lakari is urging the landowners to look for alternatives to address their grievances with the state. This morning, a faction of elders that claim to be the legitimate Tuguba clan landowners of Hela province called on the government and LNG developers to redo the entire clan vetting process. They say the current issues between landowners, the government and developer could have been avoided and millions of kina saved had the government not cut corners in the first place.
These men claim to be the legitimate elders of the Tuguba clan in Hela province. Addressing the media today, they made it very clear that they were more concerned with proper representation of the Tuguba land custodians.
And now you look at now plenty of so-called leaders and chairmen and the beneficiaries of LNG project go past, because that time the real custodians of LNG project were illiterate. So no got money go past now. Some people they knew how to communicate or go past, or maybe they had the connections or go past. Not to go me Papa Grant. They've actually cheated on some of those rightful landowners.
They say the confusion over land custody runs deeper than many understand, going back generations to a common ancestor, Hela, whose children founded the 4 main clans of Hela province.
And then from there we can branch it out, and then you can really identify the landowners. That's how that's the easy way to go.
The faction has now proposed that the clan vetting process should be completely redone to recognize only the 4 main clans.
The developer want the landowner to, the state must be guided one than this law. In that we wanted to do it properly, so by plan of look at this kind of problem now stop, where all landowners or fight among all later or come resort to actions that come touching property law or government or developer. Maybe like stopping this law, so by then if you deal want the true Papa ground, where time all true Papa ground true is in a good and they all give you a blessing law. You proceed on with the activities and by good.
They have also requested that the government allow for and recognize an ancient ceremonial ritual of blessing to allow the LNG project to continue in their land.
Lili keke na bungi mokada pastors na miplamas officially do handover takeover law project side, because those we were custodians. Miplan have been given Togo right law or developer and government Togo right law must go proceed with the LNG project. We have never said that. And Miplan Lulu stop yet. And even if Miplan no problem by stop yet.
They say until these requests are met, they will not lose sleep over the benefits they have been denied.
Acting Police Commissioner Jim Andrews and the PNGDF Commander Gilbert Torpo, in a joint press conference this afternoon, condemned the actions of disgruntled landowners who destroyed heavy machinery at the Angore project site in Hela yesterday. Acting Commissioner Andrews is urging the people to refrain from causing more damage. Reiterating his statement, Commander Torpo said their objective there is to make sure that the rule of law prevails.
Getting straight to the people that destroyed the properties there, to restrain or refrain from causing destructions and taking the law into their own hands. That has to be stopped immediately.
Key perpetrators of the incidents in Mendi and the disruptions and burning of equipment in Angore LNG project site and along the access roads is understood to be actions of the few. Therefore, PNG Defence Force has reinforced police security operations to deal with these few key perpetrators, which we have their names and will be dealt with in accordance with our laws of the country.
Yeah, with National EMTV News, we go for our first break now, but don't go away. We'll have more of the day's stories when we come back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Whilst there has been increasing focus on Papua New Guinea's growing relationship with China, the Deputy Prime Minister has reaffirmed the national government's commitment to strengthening ties with Australia. Upon his return from his most recent trip down south, Charles Abel gave an update on his meetings with Australian officials. Among issues discussed, potentially closer cooperation in the areas of law and justice, health and education.
These things add up in the budget.
Deputy Prime Minister Charles Abel was in Australia recently for a series of engagements, including meetings with Australia's political leaders to discuss how best to improve the level of cooperation between both nations. According to Mr. Abel, Australia has indicated a willingness to increase their level of support to Papua New Guinea in key areas.
China is coming in to assist us with different options around financing. And countries like Papua New Guinea have been taking advantage of that.
The meetings with the Australian officials come at a time when there has been increasing concern by Australia at the level of engagement by China with Pacific Island countries, something which Mr. Abel acknowledged.
Assistance through our Defence Force, and I already explained about looking at manus and the patrol boats they're providing us and some of the financing options. If China is coming up with some financing options, why can't Australia also look at those things?
He, however, noted that the current changes to geopolitics were also an opportunity for Australia to increase their presence in the region. Among the sectors that have been identified for closer cooperation are law and justice, health and education.
You guys need to look at yourself. China is here. Whether you like it or not, they're going to be a big player in the region, a big player in the world, and they're very important partners of Papua New Guinea. And, let's just work together so that we help each other, make sure the partnership is the best for everybody.
The first APEC discussion series held at the University of Papua New Guinea was based on trade and the global trading system. The discussions featured talks from Foreign Affairs Minister, Australia's Assistant Trade and Tourism Trade Minister, and World Trade Organization General Secretary. These discussions are open to interested Papua New Guineans, businesses and stakeholders, as it provides an insight into economic discussions on the hosting of the 2018 APEC Leaders Summit in PNG in November.
In the first few months leading up to November, the APEC Secretariat will be hosting similar discussions to inform and educate stakeholders or investors on how PNG will benefit as an APEC member country. These talks are aimed to promote free and open trade policies that will improve sustainable economic growth. In the first discussion, Foreign Affairs Minister Rimbing Pato spoke of how WHO has been a contributor to increased levels of global prosperity. He made the comments after WHO Director General Roberto Azevedo highlighted the importance of international trade in Papua New Guinea and the recovery from natural disasters. In the panel discussion, APEC Secretariat Executive Director Dr. Alan Bollard said the focus was on ensuring good rules for international trade, which translates into improvements in living standards. The next discussion is scheduled for July 12th on the topic, Why APEC Matters for Papua New Guinea. Thekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
This morning, the 9th Chinese medical team was officially welcomed into the country to continue serving at the Port Moresby General Hospital. The team of 10 highly qualified doctors arrived in Port Moresby on Tuesday. They will also be involved in the construction of the new urology centre.
The 9th Chinese medical team arrived with much to offer to Port Moresby General Hospital and the country. This team of highly qualified doctors will replace the 8th Chinese medical team and continue to work shoulder to shoulder with the POM-Gen staff.
There will be touching, which is important to us, and one of that is the field of urology and the center that will be developed in urology. So that will be very enriching for us.
This new team is expected to be more involved in medical training and education in PNG.
Every year, they also went out of the Port Moresby, go to other provinces and the regions to do some treatments for the local people. And also, they donate the equipment and medicine to the hospitals.
The team will also be involved in the construction of a new center for urology minimally invasive surgery. This center will provide local patients with high-quality surgical care. Lilian Soperakinea, National EMTV News.
The Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary's Internal Affairs Directorate is conducting workshops in the country with the help from the Australian Federal Police. Director of Internal Affairs Chief Superintendent Robert Ali, who facilitated a 3-day course in Lae, said this is to address ethical practices and minimize issues concerning misbehavior affecting the RPNGC. 19 senior police supervisors from the Lae Metropolitan Command graduated on discipline procedures after completing this training.
The Director for Internal Affairs, Chief Superintendent Robert Ali, said Allegations of police brutality and ill-disciplined behavior has affected the operations of the constabulary. These workshops that are being conducted by the Internal Affairs Directorate aim to address these issues in the police force. They are targeting the senior officers who will be leading commands.
And so our attention is to try to drive this agenda, the Commissioner's agenda on discipline issues right throughout constabulary, so that we get everybody thinking in the same direction and moving in the same direction. And so we try to cut down on all this nonsense of police misbehavior and not respecting the rights of the citizens and sort of thing. And so that's a drive that we are doing, and we've been doing workshops with all our senior line managers and trying to impart to them the knowledge and the skills, so they can be able to do the job better at their operational front of the policing value chain.
Police officers' file and rank can only be promoted if the officers have a stable and disciplined character. Chief Superintendent Ali said officers are selected by their supervisors, which the training was focused on. Ali said it was identified that there was disconnection between the supervisors and the frontline officers that has caused discipline problems.
Discipline is everybody's responsibility. It's not only internal affairs. We only administer the systems and the process. But right down there, where you can detect what is happening and prevent it from happening or transcending into the public domain, and you can actually stop it there. Now, what happens if it gets into the public domain? That's an area where we do not have any control. But like, for example, the media and the print media and the electronic media.
This training is in line with what the frontline officers are undertaking on leadership and supervision that will end next week. 19 senior police supervisors graduated yesterday on discipline procedures facilitated by the RPNGC Internal Affairs and the Australian Federal Police.
We have always had the AAP by our side to say, no, let's continue to drive the agenda. And we've been driving a couple of these training programs with the assistance of AAP, and they've been a very useful companion in this arrangement.
4 senior police women were among these supervisors who graduated yesterday. Julie Badui Owa, National EMTV News, Leh.
Members of the general public who attended the 2-day Political Parties Expo in Leh say it is a great initiative that should continue because of the awareness it creates. Frankie Poros was one who visited the expo and learned about various political parties, their policy and the roles they had in the early days of PNG politics.
Day 2 of the Political Parties Expo in Leh continued this morning, giving the general public access to information on political parties in the country. Frankie Poros visited the expo today and said it was a great opportunity having different parties set up in one place.
This expo is looking more good plan where we can come up annually where we can look at na young generation now na osem agimol feda education or one political parties can look na BNM.
Lucy Lippen is another of these people who took time out to visit the expo. She says it has allowed her to look at the various party policies and consider which one to support and even join.
I've always been interested in wanting to know about, the different parties and what they stand for. And once I got to know that they were having an expo here, I just got the chance to come around and see what was available.
Registrar of Political Parties Dr. Alphonse Gelu said more people need to know and join parties and is encouraging the participation of more women.
It is important that women, they have to do this. They have to become members of political parties. They have to become interested. We don't want people complaining after an election that we have not been fairly treated.
The expo was conducted by the Registry of Political Parties in partnership with the United Nations Development Programme. Lucy Kopana, National EMTV News, Leh.
Over 200 students of Kwikila Secondary School now have access to better lighting with the completion of Bank South Pacific's Solar Lighting Community Project. The 75,000 kina project took 4 weeks to complete and saw the installation of 15 solar light poles for the school grounds together with indoor lights. Deputy Principal To Ogwasi said he had gone into the city and on the way back was informed that there was a blackout and there was no fuel for the generator. Driving into the school, he saw the bright lights and students studying under solar-powered lights and was very grateful for BSP's initiative. Kwikila Secondary School in the Central Province is the 11th recipient of BSP's 2018 Community Projects themed solar lights in high schools. Also handing over the community project was BSP Kiunga, who lit up 4 grade 10 classrooms at Aimbak High School. Kiunga and BSP Waigani Drive branch, who completed and handed over their project to Mainohana High School, also in the Central Province. This is Friday's news. We take a look at stories making headlines overseas when we come back. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas now into a developing story. Israel's Prime Minister's wife has been charged with misusing state funds. Sarah Netanyahu could face years in prison, but her legal team says that the charges are absurd and delusional.
Sarah Netanyahu, the wife of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, was charged with fraud and breach of trust in an ongoing corruption investigation, according to an indictment filed in Jerusalem Magistrates Court on Thursday afternoon. Prosecutors say Sarah Netanyahu spent about $100,000 in state money on ordering expensive meals and high-end waiters to the Prime Minister's residence repeatedly between 2010 and 2013. Prosecutors say Netanyahu ordered the meals and then concealed the expenses, working with the Deputy Director General of the Prime Minister's office, who faces the same charges. A lawyer for Sarah Netanyahu denounced the charges as false and hallucinatory, saying that she will be found innocent and that truth and logic will prevail. This indictment increases the pressure on the Netanyahu family. The Israeli leader is facing a series of corruption investigations of his own. Police have already said they have enough evidence to charge him with fraud, bribery, and breach of trust in 2 separate investigations. He's been questioned as a suspect in a 3rd investigation. Netanyahu has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing, insisting there will be nothing because there is nothing.
More than 2,000 children are being held at detention centers across the United States. And with all this chaos and confusion, it's agony for parents who just want their kids back.
We're going to have a lot of happy people.
The day after President Trump signed an executive order billed as a plan to stop the separation of undocumented immigrant families.
I'm directing HHS, DHS, and DOJ to work together to keep illegal immigrant families together during the immigration process and to reunite these previously separated groups.
Rochelle Garza, an immigration lawyer in Brownsville, Texas, says she's still trying to make sense of it all.
The order doesn't reunify my client with his daughter. It doesn't speak to reunifying any of the parents with their children.
Garza represents one Central American father who was separated from his daughter in early June. More than 2,300 children have been separated from their families since the Trump administration rolled out the zero-tolerance policy in early May.
If you are smuggling a child, then we will prosecute you. And that child may be separated from you as required by law.
The confusion is rampant. This group of almost 20 undocumented immigrants were shuttled in and out of the federal courthouse to face the misdemeanor charge of illegal entry. This image has become a daily routine at this courthouse for several weeks now. But public defenders told them prosecutors dismissed their cases and the group was taken out of the courthouse. A few hours later, with little explanation, prosecutors insisted the charges were never dismissed.
I think it's a direct result of what's going on with our administration, that they're changing things on the fly.
But Rochelle Garza says the reality on the border is much darker.
The damage is done, and all we're trying to do right now is pick up the pieces and see how we can connect these parents with their children.
Time does pass quickly. Saturday marks 2 years since British voters decided to leave the EU. Progress has been slow in negotiating this divorce, which will impact millions of people.
A petition about Brexit.
All right. Accepting Brexit was never going to be easy. For some Remainers, the fight is still on.
This is not party.
Yes.
This is country. It's bigger.
Absolutely.
It's much bigger.
They're pushing for another vote on the final deal.
There is a whole plethora of things that people thought they were going to get that they now can see they're not.
But some people would say that makes a mockery of democracy. We had the vote. We knew the consequences. What do you say to them?
Well, let's live in a one-party state. Let's never, ever have a general election. Let's just elect one government and have them forever because that's what democracy said at a particular point in time. That would obviously be ludicrous.
So do you think Brexit will be good for jobs?
Campaigners are taking the temperature of locals here in Reading, a city west of London, with this makeshift Brexitometer. And so you can see that some people do think Brexit will be good for jobs. Some people say it could be good for the NHS, the health service here in the UK. However, what really unifies surprise everybody is nobody seems to think that Brexit is going well.
Hello there, you in a rush?
Yeah, I was going to miss my bus.
Why don't you have a leaflet then?
Sorry.
Mostly, it's an uphill battle.
Hello there.
Against the
We're
fed up
campaigning for a people's vote on a Brexit deal.
and the fatigued.
I think it's unrealistic for us to have a vote now because we've already voted. Yeah.
No, but this is a vote on the final bill.
Up and down the country, the British people are worn out. London's famously chatty cabbies are sick of talking about it. How do you think Brexit is going?
Too slowly. The government needs to push on and do what the people voted for.
It's a struggle to keep up with the twists and turns of the Brexit process.
There are a lot of people out there that are a bit confused about what the government are going to be doing.
We are working to ensure that we can have our future customs arrangements in
Political
place on the
posturing,
1st of January
parliamentary
2021.
rebellions and endless procedural votes.
I'm not really sure whether it's a backstop or a backslide that she's talking about.
You're with Friday's news. We go for a break now. When we come back, some sporting updates in Trukai Sports.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. We begin with Rugby League, and the PNG Kumuls will face the Fiji Bati tomorrow in the Pacific Test. The Kumuls, who are without a few players from the World Cup team, will go up against a Fijian side packed with NRL experience.
The last time the two teams met was in 2016, where the PNG Kumuls went on to win 24 points to 22. Both teams had a successful World Cup campaign last year. The Kumuls made it through to the quarterfinals, eventually losing to England, while the Fijians' run ended in the semi-finals before losing to Australia. The Kumuls will have another chance to prove their worth on the international stage as emerging forces come together tomorrow. Though the Kumuls lack NRL experience, the players are very passionate when it comes to representative football. The Bati's backline will be trouble for the Kumuls' defence, with fullback and captain Kevin Nguama, Storm Suliasi Vunivalu, Aquila Uate, Tyrone Phillips and Marcelo Montoya leading the attack. NRL players like Jared Hayne, Kane Evans, Jason Bukuya and Eloni Vunakeki will feature in the Fijian side tomorrow. PNG will be looking to captain James Sigiaro to lead the attack, and with his NRL experience, it is certain he will be trouble for the Fijians. PNG will play Fiji tomorrow at 4 p.m. in the first of the Pacific Test doubleheader. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
And still on that match, Fiji Bati winger Suliasi Vunivalu says the Bati need to remain physical in the match against the resilient PNG Kumuls in the Pacific Test. Vunivalu says they are aware of the physicality of their Melanesian cousins and they're going into the game prepared to provide a good physical match. The Stormfly added that his side had been on a long week training at camp and are prepared for the encounter. Fiji takes on PNG at 6 p.m. at Campbelltown in Sydney, while Tonga take on Samoa later on in the evening. The PNG Sports Foundation and WaterAid PNG have signed a memorandum of understanding to review sports policy in the country. The specific focus of the policy review will be on sports development and the use of sport as a tool for change.
WaterAid PNG and PNG Sports Foundation will work together to review the country's sports policy to enhance sports development in PNG and beyond through adaptation of best practices that is suitable. WaterAid will provide technical support to review the existing sports policy to ensure for more reviews, restructure and realignment of the organization to ensure it not only manages sports at all levels but should also set policy directions for proper practices at all levels of sports management. Sports Foundation CEO Peter Tsimalili Jr. says the support from WaterAid will help boost the way sports is being run and conducted in the country.
We have had now firmed up a partner that is willing to walk with us through this review, which will in turn guide the way in which sports has transformed in the country.
WaterAid, to assist with the review, funded 50,000 kina to carry out the project.
They will now take that space in terms of what they achieve, what they as an organization, what they drive in terms of their awareness and filling that space in our policy review.
Program Director, WaterAid PNG, Mark Wolfbauer, says WaterAid is pleased to partner with PNG Sports Foundation.
We've recently moved into the Sports for Development space, and I can say that we're really pleased that we made the decision to do so. We've learned a lot, and I think we have a lot to offer. We've been welcomed into participating in the sports review process by Mr. Chairman Lilly and his team, and we look forward to offering our technical guidance on such issues as the standards that should be in place for sports venues in Papua New Guinea, as well as the sorts of guidance that coaches could be providing to athletes.
PNG Sports Foundation has also engaged a nationally owned consultancy firm, Zoom Care Limited, to also go through the review of sports policy in the country. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
Don't go anywhere, we'll have more of Trukai Sports after these messages.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. To the FIFA World Cup now. The elimination round yesterday saw a turn of events in Pool C when Denmark and Australia drew 1-1 and Peru failed to overcome France in the match that followed.
Coming off a 1-0 win over Peru last week, Denmark was out to make sure they were not sent home. Australia, on the other hand, still hot from the 2-1 loss to France thanks to some aid from the VAR. New losing was not an option.
And the VAR played its role.
And that was exactly what both sides achieved yesterday when they drew 1-1, though it was Denmark who got the first score in. And when it looked like Australia was going to end the first half scoreless, their opening for a goal came in the 38th minute when Denmark committed a handball which resulted in a free kick for the Socceroos. This brought them to a draw which remained the same for the rest of the match, keeping them both in contention. Meanwhile, Peru, on the other hand, did not have much luck in their match against France. France ended the battle for the cup by keeping them scoreless for the full 90 minutes while scoring one in the process. Dinero Sraiko, National EMTV Sports.
And in Pool D, early this morning, Croatia left Argentina stunned. No one saw it coming, but true enough, Argentina was beaten 3-0.
The first half was not the best performance for the both sides. Both missed a goal-scoring chance each despite poor defense.
And work for Caballero to do.
The second half came with the first match and Croatian goal in the 53rd minute.
Who finishes it absolutely magnificent.
But the Lionel Messi-led side missed an equalizing opportunity 10 minutes later.
Messi! Oh, and Croatia escape.
And even a free kick for Argentina in the 72nd minute was not forthcoming. A spectacular 30-yard strike through Croatia's Luka Modric set the scoreline to 2-0 in the 80th minute, with Argentina still struggling.
Goal from Luka Modric!
Full-time came with an extra 4 minutes, but there was no saving for the Argentinians. And as disappointed Argentinian fans looked on, Croatia fired their third goal in the first minute of extra time.
Kovacic, Rakitic, they're going to walk it in!
And while Argentina goes home with some hopes for the next World Cup, Captain Lionel Messi said months ago that their fortunes in Russia will decide whether he makes another World Cup appearance. And the question is this where he hangs up his World Cup boots? Dinero Sraiko, National EMTV Sports.
And here's another story on Lionel Messi and Argentina's nightmare at this World Cup after that stunning defeat against Croatia.
Front line was looking woeful. They had major problems at the back. Just look at this awful moment which teed up Ribic for Croatia's opening goal. That was served on a plate, but he took it well, as did Luka Modric for that second goal. An absolutely brilliant strike that he bent just inside the post. Argentina were now on the ropes and Croatia finished them off by exposing their inadequate defence once again. They were lining up to score, but it was even Rakitic who twisted the knife for a 3-0 win. Well, this was an excruciating experience for those Argentina fans and the great Diego Maradona in the stadium as well. You can see how they reacted to it. Argentina's players lost their cool, the performance was embarrassing and the results simply humiliating. And the emotions were pretty similar back home in the capital Buenos Aires. The watching fans had to endure a series of bad misses before their team totally capitulated. By the end, these supporters seemed almost resigned to the score. Argentina aren't out of it, but a lot will now depend on the game for Iceland as well as and Nigeria on Friday, in fact. But Argentina must beat Nigeria in their final game, and they might need favours on top of that. And their -3 goal difference could prove to be a real handicap.
And that's it for True Kai Sports. We'll go for a break now. When we come back, the weather details for Saturday. Stay tuned.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
A look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours in the southern region. Mostly fine, becoming cloudy for Port Moresby. Mostly fine for Daru. A shower or two for Kerma and Alta. Showers, and then fine weather later on for Popondetta. To the Momasa region, lake can expect cloudy with rain periods, becoming cloudy with a chance of a few showers for Madang, thundery showers for Wewak, and cloudy with a chance of a few showers for Vanimo. To the New Guinea Islands region, cloudy with some showers later on for Lorengau, Kavieng, Kimbe and Buka, a shower or two expected in Kokopo and Rabaul. And in the Highlands region, a few afternoon and evening showers with scattered morning fog expected in all the major centres: Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabag. I'll look at the forecast for small ships, but first there is a strong wind warning current for all coastal waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island, to Kerma, Yule Island, Hood Point, all Milne Bay Islands, Finchafen through Vitias and Dampier Strait, to CSC, Long Island and West New Britain, including the Bismarck and Coral Seas. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island, to Kerma, Yule Island, Hood Point, to Samarai Island, and with waters of Finchafen through Vitias and Dampier Strait to CSC Island, to Long Island, to Bogia, seas 2 to 3 meters. Waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, and with waters of Samarai Island to Cape Vogel to Finchafen, seas 1.5 to 2 meters. Waters of Bogia to Madang, Wewak, Aitape, Vanimo and the northern PNG Indonesian border, and with waters of Manus and its western group of islands, and waters of East New Britain to New Island and Bougainville, seas 0.5 to 1.5 meters, and waters of West New Britain, seas 1.5 to 2.5 meters. And a look at the ocean forecast. The Coral Sea sees rough with southeasterly winds at 25 to 34 knots. Solomon Sea sees moderate to rough with southeasterly winds at 20 to 25 knots. The Bismarck Sea sees rough with southeasterly winds at 20 to 30 knots. And the Pacific Ocean sees slight with east to southeasterly winds at 10 to 15 knots.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And to end the news, a recap of our top stories this evening. Hela landowners discuss ways to end violence and threats. Deputy Prime Minister says Australia-PNG ties strong, and the PNG Kumuls take on the Fiji Bati tomorrow. And that has been the news, sport and weather for today, Friday, the 22nd of June 2018. On behalf of the entire EMTV News team, pleasant viewing. Have a safe weekend. Good night.